I don't know. Obviously, we have more work to do on that. My apologies. I have to look at it in a vertical mode. Yeah, it's close enough. What we're going to do is a little sort of vase type thing. Piece of Bradford pear. Inner tool rests fairly close. Obviously, we're not very even. We'll make it even. Make it sort of round in this fashion, in that direction. May take a little bit to get it to where we need it to go, but just take your time. Lots of airspace in between. How are you doing this fine evening? Takes a bit of time to get these really looking like something. Trying to preserve the bark as best you can. I'm seeing quite a bit of bark falling off, but hopefully we can keep the bark on the very top is the general idea. Coming off in the middle, I'm not really concerned about that. Just need to get it to a little bit rounder of a shape. Could probably, and we'll go from there. We might try and leave a little bit on the sides. Thank you. That's getting pretty close. Not so much that side. That's close enough to move around and come sort of from the bottom and start making a shape. This is out of a log, so it still has the pith in it. Good place for it to crack. Although this stuff has been around now for, I think I saw 3 years, 4 years. in the log, so it's actually fairly dry. This is Bradford pear. Cuts very nice and easy. Very consistent grain. Still have a little bit to get rid of. Also a little branch going through it there. Gives it a little bit more of an interest, visual interest, I guess you'd say. And straight, flatten this out a bit here. The tool rested too high. So I have to pick a point up in here to where it stop because it's going to curve back inward up in there. Need to go a little bit lower. I don't really want any of these bark areas to be on there when I'm done. To figure out which set of jaws, probably this size. Yeah, I think so. Grab with the left leg, never let the right leg touch. You only do that once, maybe twice, and then you won't do it again. It will rip it straight out of your hands without even thinking about it. Go down to our tenant's side. This is going to need to be a curve. Coming up and around. Something like that. This will make my tenant while we're here. A little bit of an undercut, get rid of the sharp edge. I'm really going to worry too much about it. I'm sure I'm going to have to do something different with that eventually. So sort of a true curve there. It's not real nice. I should try and make that a little bit better than what it is. But I still got some bark right there I don't want. I'd say there's still bark there. Didn't get underneath it. Wants to bounce a little bit. Yep, right there. Cleaned up that bottom part. Was able to get in there closer because that was a 65-degree nose angle on that one. Actually could run that straight out more so. Been a while since I've done any of these. Not totally on purpose, but yeah. Um, yeah, I was trying to get it. I was trying to get the vertical because everything I have watched and read says you can go horizontal and vertical, and the vertical should show up in the shorts. But so far, I'm batting 1,000 on not getting that part right. But it is vertical. By virtue, I gave up, and because it didn't want to cooperate to eliminate the vertical one. Change the handle I didn't need to change. So we'll see. That's a scraper with no edge on it. Can't have that. So, on the ground. All the videos I watch says they make it look so cotton picking easy. 60 degree. But it did not cooperate, so we're just going to do it in vertical tonight. Something different. Doesn't take much. Put a fresh edge back on that. Put the handle a little heavier. The rest needs to come up a bit. We definitely don't have a very nice curve in that area, for sure. Should be able to go right in against the tenant. And get us a little bit better of a curve. Better. That leaves a lump. I hate to disappoint you, but it's not a skew. Just a shear scraper. Just a traditional scraper. That's all it be. Okay. That's good enough for now, I think. So we'll go in here and try and go back. Give this a little curvature in. And get a little bit of a general shape. I think that looks more difficult than what it should be. I think we'll just flip it around. It's almost like too much like work to do it that way. Yeah. Let's just switch, flip it around, get it into the chuck. Not saying we might not have to go back, do something different. Hopefully not. Oh, I don't normally do these of this size. I started out at 6 inches. Most of the ones I've ever done are only about 4 inches. So this will make it a little different. Whether it'll be better different or not so better different, that's another story. So at least now we should be able to see a little bit more what we're doing. That's the general idea. I want to blend this curve into that curve, so that should hopefully help us. Hopefully. Guess I could actually technically leave it. Mm, not really liking that. Pick this around. That's more what I was looking for. Don't think I want to go up and off the bark. Although for whatever reason, it seems a lot of times when you go up across, you're sort of going the wrong way in some aspects right there. For whatever reason, that decided that should actually cut pretty clean. Definitely always a plus. That's pretty decent general shape. That's 1.25 inches. That's really what the size I was sort of planning on going through to hollow it. I think that's where we'll leave it at. I think we'll go and do a little bit of shear scraping on it just to even that area out a little bit. Just to save a little bit of effort sanding. That's got to be all right. A little bit in the middle, but that'll sand away. This is Bradford pear. It sands really easily. Tiny bit of bark left there, but that's okay. I think I'm semi-happy with the shape. The real question is now, do we sand this top at least as much as I can? I think we're going to. Not necessarily want to, but I guess it's the only time I'm going to have good access and easy access to sand that little bit at the top. It'll only take a minute or two, hopefully. That sand's nice and easy, like that's for sure. This will be, this will actually be done with hollowing tools, which are pretty much scrapers anyhow. 40. I could probably do some of it with a traditional scraper. Definitely could do the center part. But I don't have any traditional scrapers that I could actually come back underneath, because back in this area is where you would run into trouble. That should be good enough. Not really. Left some up here. Ah, what's new? Just the overhead? Yes. Ah. Now we're good. Yeah. Thank you for that. Dust collector goes away. Next order of business will be drill a bit of a depth hole. I do have fairly good sized drill bits to do that, so I might use a big fat drill bit. How deep shall we go? There's a mark. That's not deep enough. That would be better. Somewhere up in that area. This will just make it a little easier on the hollowing part. I had enough trouble just getting alive to start tonight, so yeah, trust me, I'm always good at what can go wrong. So I still have my mark up there. Go forward will help. Nice and slow. It's not what you call the world's greatest kind of a drill bit. This is one of these public sale finds. It is a big twist drill bit. I cut some of the shaft off of it because it was so crooked, so beat up. Somebody really abused the shaft. Deep we go, the worse it gets as far as clogging it up too. That should be good. You just use the brush to clean off the crap off the drill bit because I'm sure it's a tad bit on the warm side up front. So that's our hole. Tail stock back absolutely as far as it'll go. Because once we start to hollow this out, I'll need every bit of tool rest. Here's where we can cheat. When you have the toys to cheat with. Put it that way. I could fumble around a bit to get the tool rest height to what I need. Or I can just put the hollowing rig on. And then I have a built-in tool rest. I think that's where we're going to go. Maybe not. That might be more work than what it's worth. We'll get to this one in a short bit. Generally, I'm going to start out with a straight bit. Some of this you could actually, there was the guy asked earlier about traditional tools. I could run the scraper in there. I could run a square end scraper and clean some of that out if you wanted to. But I also do have this is the hollowing system from Trent Bosch, which is it's a nice system. Not necessarily a big hollow form kind of guy, but this one does work nice, and we'll give it that. So if I put the grub screws, even with the lettering on the bar, that pretty much means that as long as the lettering is pointing straight up and down like that, that I am in the right place as far as it goes for the cutter. So it gives you a little visual aid on where, and we got to take the tailstock off. One of the very few times that I have to do that is with this, because this is on like a 20-inch handle. I'm gonna figure out we want to be cutting somewhere around center. Could even be slightly above center for sure. And we can probably go, you're going to be able to see us from over here. So that's, and you're not going to, unfortunately, this is one of the projects you won't see a ton of things. The other weird part about these cutters, they don't like a super ton of speed to work efficiently. What I'm doing with it each time, I'm dropping back into that original hole. I'm just pushing the handle, literally just pushing the handle away from me to make it cut into that sidewall. It won't take long before we end up with a ton of chips inside. I would like to open it up the whole way down, pretty much the whole way down to the bottom of the drill hole. Why I'm doing that is I'm going to need some room to be able to move. It's really simple. It's actually a piece of 3/16 tool steel in the bar. That's what he uses. A piece of 3/16 round. So when that cutter wears out, you literally take a torch and heat this up because you actually super glue them in. Feels like it could actually use a little touch up on the sharpening, but we'll see. They do stay, for whatever reason, they do stay sharp for quite a long time. So we're probably an inch and a half thick yet out here, but I'm really after getting the whole way to the bottom. Actually, right there is the bottom of the drill hole. So if I come out and put that over top, yeah, I don't want to play around down here. That's also the reason I wanted to be just maybe a shade above center with this cutter. Is because if I went dead center, this thing will still drill a hole going straight forward, and then I could have a different issue. I've never used any. I don't have any. I don't have any of the carbide tools, to be quite honest with you. These stay sharp longer, easier to sharpen. So I'm just going to open this top part up a little bit more. Just a little bit. You watch like Trent do this. He's very, very good at it. I'm not that, what do you want to call it, proficient at it. This is what you get to spend a whole lot of time doing, is cleaning everything out. And it's only going to get worse as we hollow back underneath, which is where we're going from there. So now I will put the boring or the captured system on so that I can go back underneath in getting in this curve and up in this area. It should be a big enough opening down inside. Before I do that, I'm going to open that up just a little bit more, a little bit further down. That should be far enough, I think. Yeah, yeah, I can believe that. Yeah. They would do the same thing at the store that I teach at too. They would be like, "Well, we have this." You know, it is what it is, I guess you'd want to say. And there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing. There's a ton of hollowing tools out there. There's quite a number of these captured systems out there as well. I mean, they certainly don't have the, what do you want to call it, the market locked into place, so to speak. Hopefully that one, yeah, it's got a nice edge on it. At least it feels like it's a nice edge. We'll find out here in a second. The one thing about this system, and I'm sure there's most of the rest of them that are a captured system. For one, let's go back to this view. It might make a little bit more sense, maybe. How about, can we zoom in a bit? Might make less sense yet, but this is going to be the, I'm sure that's what you ended up with, was the curved tool. This tool, no matter what, whether it's the easy wood one or any of the other ones with any kind of a gooseneck one, the support has to be back here behind the curve. Even in the captured system, it still needs to be back here. There's so much torque trying to flip it over. The other thing to watch out for is this line, imaginary line. I don't think I have a ruler that will give me that. So if we took a ruler, the ruler's not really long enough. That tip does not want to be out beyond this bar. If it's beyond the bar, coming away from it, coming in this direction here, then that makes that thing very, very aggressive. So that's just some little bit of knowledge I have on the subject. So now we can go from there back up just a little bit further. The other thing is we're going to turn the laser on my little trusty little Allen wrench and my setup block. This is kind of the wonders of some of this stuff, is that when you go and set a laser, the laser pointer, I'll literally set this right up underneath the bar and bring it up close to that tip. You see we're out in that area there. What's up, Billy? So this has two little Allen screws on the end of it that allows me to move it around so that I get in the right area. I just have to follow the right line up. Just come back down that way a little bit. Back over here. So that's kind of a nifty little feature of it. Makes it a little less troublesome. So now it's measured. Don't know whether the camera, oh yeah, sort of picks it up, hopefully. You'll be able to watch the dot, the bouncing ball over here. When it disappears, then we're down to the thickness that we want, which right now I have it set for about 3/8 of an inch. Up here at the neck is where I got to watch. Slow the speed down a little bit. A lot of stopping and cleaning out shavings. That is kind of the pain in the what part of any of this kind of stuff. At least I've left myself a big enough hole that I can get my fat little finger in there easier. Another way of doing that is to actually just drag the shop back over with a small hose. As long as we don't need to, I'm not going to. It's just more stuff in my road. I have to watch because I have to remember that there's thickness in this bark, and especially since it's tapered, the bark is down further there. We're getting fairly close over in that area. Yeah, I saw that. What exactly are they called to go in Amazon and look? Let me move my tool rest over a bit. I saw that. It looked kind of interesting. I try not to blow too much stuff around. That just generally makes more of a mess for me. I may end up going and getting the shop vac hose. Okay. Keep moving. Be right up in that area, right in there. The laser's just about ready to drop off. It's getting elongated. Probably won't be able to see that on the camera, but that's what I'm looking at. Clean out a little bit behind it because it's getting, once you get enough chips built up in there, it doesn't want to, it doesn't cooperate. And you don't, the temptation, of course, would be to push harder on it. You don't want to do that. This is going to be too hard on my fingers. Give me one short second. We're just going to drag the shop back over in a little itty bitty hose. And what are they called? Is that what they're called? If you look on Amazon, they're called a handheld blower. Okay, I'll have to look at that. I will have to check that out. I have another Amazon delivery. We bought a camper, and the wife's been ordering a ton of stuff. Maiden camping voyage last week did not go as planned. Went more like a disaster instead of a camping expedition. Okay. And they're battery operated, I assume. Okay. So there's our lasers dropping off. So that means we're down at 3.8 or less. Okay. I'll definitely have to check into that. It looked kind of interesting, but I don't necessarily. Well, the problem with blowing things off is you're probably getting more airborne than you are anything else. That's the reason I don't never really got involved in doing that. I'm going to try something without taking this cutter out. I'm going to try honing it a little bit. Yep. And I shouldn't say take the cutter out. You're going to take the whole bar out. See whether that cuts any better. This should be cutting. This should be cutting this Bradford pear really easily, and it's not cutting as easily as I would like it to. So we're good into that. So in all reality, I'm at thickness only down to about there. So we'll just keep working our way down. Can also, we'll leave it alone for now. I was going to say, we'll just keep moving the tool rest a little bit closer each time. Sort of have to keep increasing the space behind it. It's clogged up the chips. For whatever reason, wrapped around the end, yes. Anytime you're doing anything, most of the hollow forms are done end grain. This would be side grain. That means you're going to stop way more often because the chips literally wrapped around the cutter, which makes it a pain in the wet ski. Okay, try and feel what we're doing before I start. Should be able to get over in this corner. I don't necessarily worry about it being a super duper smooth on the inside. Come on, chips, cooperate. Get out of the road. No, can't do that. Once I say, like I said, I don't worry about those ridges that I'm leaving in there. I do have an actual teardrop scraper in the same, it's actually on the same bar as what this one is, that I'll put on at the end. That I'll do by hand. I don't normally put that in the captured system, because you really don't need to. You're only removing a little bit of material. Of course, if you're so minded, you certainly can do all this freehand without any of the captured systems. Thank you. Yeah, like, subscribe. Subscribe would be great too. I know. Probably should swing this out of the road. Get in there and open that up maybe a bit with the straight bar. I'm still able to. Trent Bosch is able to. If you swing this handle back over this way, you can get pretty much down to the very center on the bottom. I don't necessarily have quite that talent. I say I don't do it enough to really be very good at it. One thing I should have looked at while I had that out. Should look where I have this set at now. Because if I have it, if I'm thinking right, which I am, I'm still sort of off behind it, where that cutter is cutting just about the way the tool is sitting there, although you probably really can't see hardly any of it. Let's see. Let's bring this camera over a bit. You can see a little bit better. So I sit that on. So there's my pointer. So as I'm cutting, I'm actually behind that tip, which is probably not a great thing to be. Way up in that area more so. Somewhere thereabouts. I think that'll give me a better, more accurate read on it. So let's see what that reads at there. Yeah. That's where I could have gotten in trouble. I am definitely the laser is dropping off up into about here. Well, I don't think we're in any real danger of going through the side yet. Put it that way. Do need to reach in and open that bottom of that hole up some more. And you're not going to get far. I got fairly far, but it fills up that top of that with the chip. And whether you're doing it by hand or in a captured system, that's your nemesis. Is what will get you in big time trouble in a big hurry. Is them chips building up. So at least we should be able to give us a little bit more room to work. Nice little bite right straight to the corner, to the outside. If I drag a little bit back towards myself, it will drag some of them chips up closer to the top. Somewhat. Maybe not. Yeah. You get enough of them in there, it can get exciting in a hurry. It'll just want to bounce that tool all over the place. And that's one of those times that nothing good comes of that. So we're good into. I'm going to try and get that area before I get it filled up with chips again. See why I don't like to do hollow forms? That's all you get done doing. Clean that's it. Um, I don't know. I don't have one. I can't answer that question. Um, Probably the his question was, what's the draw over the battery operated little blowers versus a compressor? Um, I don't have a good answer for that. The battery operated ones would make it more portable, I guess you would say. Like for me, I just have a small compressor. I just have basically it's a nail gun compressor, so it's not going to generate a ton of uh, volume of air. But I could see where the little battery operated thing would probably be kind of nice in some aspects. Yeah, I could see where I could see where they would have some advantages. Lots of advantages of not having to run a big compressor to do a little bit of work. Yeah, I could see. I don't know. I definitely remember that tonight. I'll definitely be looking into that. We're getting there. Another 10 blowouts, or 10, another 10 clean outs, and we'll be there maybe. So we're basically down in that area, measured. What I was doing there is cleaning out some more area behind it. Some pretty nasty ridges in there, but like I said, I don't worry about them. The teardrop scraper that I'll put on will actually clean them off very, very quickly and very easily. I am certainly not a master of that at all. We're going to look at this, make sure we're set right. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean that would be a definite plus. I'll move it over a little bit more, back out. Not quite that far around. Over about there. I have to watch because I'm getting down into this more curved part. It probably should be closer to that nose. If only I could remember which way to turn this each time, I'd probably be better at it. But it's certainly easier. I also have the Jameson hollowing setup, which is what I started with. And not to sound like an advertisement, this is way easier to use. That, I mean, it has a laser on it. Any of them with the laser on, or most of them have a laser on them anyhow. That being able just to adjust just the laser and not have to loosen it up and move something around. Yeah, YouTube's not that fast. And the way things went tonight, it's hard to say which notification you're getting. Because I went live and it wasn't cooperating, wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I quit, tried again. I think this was the third attempt. And now it's in horizontal rather than vertical, which is not necessarily the way I wanted it to be, but I even had my technical guru, and then my son-in-law was over and looked at it. I think that was last week or whatever. We tried to get it to go live on the normal YouTube as well as on the shorts, which is what everybody says you can do, but it didn't work. Even tonight, it's on the vertical platform, but from what I could see, it's not live on the shorts. Okay, let me get my flashlight. It is still a it is still a nice kind of addition to the OBS, that for the fact that you can go and do shorts or record something for a short. That would be very, very easy. So I think, see where we're at. Now we can remove some more of that. Or is it going to fight me? No, I've never. I was out at Trent Box's place. I'm gonna say 2 years ago, maybe longer, 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, that's really why you're there, is to learn this hollowing thing. And of course, he wants to get that out for everybody. And I think there was one of the people in the class that actually did buy it. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. And not to mention, if you watch some videos of some of that stuff, you can do that because you can buy the little, I think they call it lipstick camera or whatever, for right on there, and then you'd have to have another monitor and and that, but I don't do enough of them to make it worthwhile. It is. I don't. It is a neat concept. I'll put it that way. It is kind of a neat concept. It's kind of neat to watch. It just how much more money do you want to spend on doing hollow forms and things like that? Because the true hollow forms, I mean, I don't do that many of them. I try and sell most everything I do. So, be quite honest with you, they're not a real, what do you want to call, a real big seller. While I have this, I'm going to switch over to the straight bar. I will put that in the captured system as well. But before I do that, I am going to go over and touch up the edge on this one. Would make it easier if I actually knew what the degree was. And if you it's going to be close enough. If you watch Trent and some of them people like that sharpen one of these, they're doing it pretty much freehand. It's usually, generally for him, it's actually up off the platform. And he just rolls it around in his fingers. I am not that guy. Do want it around further though. That looks good. It doesn't take much. It's only a little cut. So before I put the curve one back in, we will sharpen that one too as well. See if this one still has some markings on it. What I'll try and do is get it so that it's straight up and down or slightly canted towards me, as in slightly, not a big cant. When you use it by hand, just in the handle, it works better if you're slightly canting it towards yourself. Makes it a little. It's this straight cutter can be very aggressive if used kind of improperly, I guess you'd want to say. Oh, that would make sense. I need somebody to watch me. I forget that too many times. Okay, now we got to do a major change on where the laser's at. Won't take very long to do it, but let's get straight over, come back to that line. Oh, really? There we go. So 8/4, 3/8. All right. Must not have that quite far enough back in the bar. Not quite as far back in the bar as what I had it before. So we'll just move that back rather than undoing otherwise I'd end up having to undo that laser. I don't really want to do that. So what it is, I'm running out of adjustment on that little axis tip there. So it's a 1/2, 3/8. That should be it, I think. Would not be a fun thing to get this far along and go through. And now it's set straight off of the nose of it, so I can actually go down here. I'll be able to do this whole entire curve from this area to the bottom fairly easily. But we don't need a whole lot more out of the bottom. It's on a straight bar, so I can bring our tool rest up. The less we have hanging over any time is better, even with these. Of course, like anything else, getting dead center is really more about where the challenge is at. Okay, we are just about there. But we've filled up with chips again. Okay, back in, get our tool rest over fairly far. I do have pins somewhere that I probably really should be using. This does come with pins to put in over there. You can put them on either side. It's really just there so that we don't run off the side of the tool rest. Also going to run into a camera. Gonna back that up just a smidgen. Hopefully keep it in the picture. Even though you're looking at halfway looking at the bar, that's going to allow me to get the rest of that up in there. Fingers are no longer long enough. You can do the old tap routine on it. This is not paper thin, so it's not going to sound a whole lot different. So the very dead center is where we want it. We need to work a little bit more in this curve. I want to come back up around into here. And we might put the curve bar on. We may not. We might just use the teardrop scraper. Okay, I think. Now I'm not dropping. I'm certainly can't drop off the edge down there because the chalk is there. But we know that's going to eventually be the very bottom of the bowl, or the bottom of this little thing. Watch where my fingers are. I don't want to get them in between that post. Go a little heavier down in there. It's kind of one of them situations of so be it. Be just like the same as if you were doing a bowl and the bottom of your bowl is a little thicker. It just means it sits on the table a little better. You have to clean up as you go too, a little bit. There are some big ridges in there. But well, it only takes a second. Should have taken the curved one along over to the grinder with us. Would have made more sense. But who likes to make sense? So this time we'll try and remember to switch back. So we'll go back over to the grinder. We know we already have it set. It seems to be around, that's around 60 degrees. That is what the platform is set at right now. This one I'm not necessarily, hopefully I'm not sticking my head in the red. I don't really necessarily have to have this around the side. Maybe a little bit beneficial if it's sharp there. We can do that a little bit freehand. It certainly don't have to be pretty. Just needs to cut. This one's pretty easy to set. You just set it on the bar or on the platform. Go back. This one actually have a line that I drew on it. Straight one. Never seem to got around to drawing a line on that one. Primarily because a lot of times I'll use that straight one to do other things with it. Like when I did this little pencil pot, I did some of that with that one. Just made it a little easier. So we'll go back to this guy and we'll have to majorly readjust, I'm sure. So at least get it back onto the cardboard. There we go. Back our axis up to there. Go around to there. Back the other way. One more time. Three. Always pays to double check to make sure that I'm on the right line, and I am not. What's new? Somewhere there about there. I want to be maybe not quite that much off. Be close to the front tip. Somewhere up in that area. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Once again, the curved part of the bar has to be over the side, over the tool rest. So according to that, we need to take off from halfway down. Really most interesting is getting rid of those big chunky areas in there. On that curved part. Also, I don't think I was quite as careful as what I should have been. When I put that bar back in, almost feels like I might have it canted so the cutter is sticking up in the air rather than over on a little bit of an angle. This seems to want to be a little bit aggressive. We're just about ready to drop off the whole way up through there. I think we're going to call that about good. Yeah, I got rid of them. One thing, nobody can ever get their fingers in there far enough to feel the majority of this stuff, so that's kind of a plus. So, actually, I think we're done. We're done measuring, so we'll just get rid of the whole setup. I'm gonna go just go back to just the regular tool rest. Put the third one of the three. Set actually comes with the two cutters, and then the scraper I think was separate. Anything to get more money out of your pocket, of course. He does give you a stop collar for it. That's kind of one of the nice features of that one. And I would imagine some of the other ones are the same way, is that you put it on. Um, when you take it on and off with that that collar on there, or you got to be different. You don't have to change anything. You basically set it one time, which is what I did with it. And you just throw the tools in and away you go each time. I'm going to go back over. Here's a really fun one to sharpen. A little teardrop scraper. I don't think this is nowhere near 60 degrees. This is a very slight angle. I think his mentality on that was so that it makes it go way less aggressive. Oh, you see, I didn't quite get the same angle as him, so it's going to become the same angle. I've seen there's other people have these little teardrop scrapers that they make and sell. They're kind of a nice little scraper. I mean, it is a traditional scraper, so I mean they certainly can be aggressive. It can also get quite warm when you do this. You're taking that much off of it. So that should be good. So basically would be a traditional scraper, and pretty much in a nutshell. The only difference would be you get to adjust sort of where you want it to be. I don't want nowhere near that little sharp point. It will rotate around the whole way to get to that little teeny tiny little radius in there. It just didn't quite. Never had quite a need to have that small of a radius in that area, at least for me. Just like I did earlier, I'm going to use his logo as my center point on the grub screws, so I know where center is at. Guess a tool should be good. It's on a pretty long handle. It's probably a 20 couple inch handle, something like that. I don't remember where to set the height at. I really sort of want it cutting on center line or just slightly above because I'm going to tilt it over on the side a couple of degrees. So that's probably okay right where it's at. We get it as close to my work as I can, which is not going to be very close right now because I'm going to start the whole way back up here at the top. Because right in here, about that far down on my finger, is a big hairy ridge. So I want to get rid of that right off the bat. So we're going to pretty much going to start with the tool inside the form, just making sure that I'm not against the cutting edge or anything silly like that. Slightly tilt it over. Doesn't seem to care which direction you go. I a lot of times cut going forward. Like I just seem to be more in control when I do it that way. And if you don't think it removed much material, I won't use the vacuum this time. Just that little bit of what I did created all these little fuzzy shavings in there. And you see the shavings that it's creating is very, very fine and very nice. And I still didn't get rid of the ridge. So I must have been behind it. So rest over a little bit further. Could probably even have the really long tool rest on. The biggest fear is to get over too far and get off the tool rest. Gentle, gentle, gentle. And this is all about turning blind, because you can't see anything. You're just hoping you feel what you're feeling is correct. My gosh. The one lonely thing I'm trying to get rid of, I'm not getting rid of at all. Interesting. So that ridge, I don't know why I can't feel that dropping. Oh, there it is. Okay. So right there it drops off. I think I need to move my rest up a smidgen too. As soon as you cant that over, it feels like I might be getting on the lower side of center. I did finally get rid of that ridge. That's the plus. Let's go up just a smidge. And we're going to go down a little bit deeper. Ooh. Right now, the real reality is, I mean, there's still a little bit of a lump in there, but You know, most people don't have any fingers any longer than I do, so I need to get down so that I'm down in this area. I want that to be smooth. I will not be sanding in there. That's kind of where I would draw the line on that one. I mean, it's actually pretty smoothly cut in there to start with. We can afford to bring our tool rest up too. Definitely want to be very careful sticking the tool while it's running. When things can get it interesting. It's almost very difficult to figure out how to be very gentle when you can't see what you're doing. It's just kind of a feel your way along situation. So this is actually taking longer than what it should. I'm out of there. Chips still build up at the top, no matter what you're using. They can't get away, so that's good. I can't feel anything drastic with my fingers. The other thing that people will always love to do is take a light and shine in them a little bit. I don't see any major issues in there. It's probably definitely not as thin as what it could be. But I don't like to do my work twice. So we're less than 3/8 of an inch up in that area. See if I get the little end in there, it might be easier. So yeah, less than 3/8. Does fatten out down there, but that's probably because this is the other adventure is you can't. Yeah, it's definitely thicker down in that area. Uh, Although when you tap on it with your fingers, it might be thick right there. Would be my guess. So thick on that bulging curve right there than other places, but definitely not down in there just by the difference of the sound that it makes. And we're not going for super thin. So now I did that, I scratched up the outside. Oh, good though, I guess. Or do we go for the gusto and take a little bit more out of that center? Yeah. Famous last words of one more little itty bitty cut. I think we're going to call that good enough. I don't like when I reach around the corner. You could put that, like I say, you could put that back into the captured system if you wanted to be really super fussy with it. I'm not, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, well, I, that's one thing I've learned over the years. You know, I'd love to actually smooth that up some more right in that area, and I probably should. But once I was down in there, for some reason I don't know if I didn't have it over on quite enough of an angle or what, but it was starting to get to where it wanted to become aggressive, a little bit grabby. Give it just a little shade. I can tell now I know what the issue is. We've taken enough material out, and I'm surprised it didn't show up that quicker. This is also, it's not, I would call this more in the damp wood category. It also feels like it's no longer actually running super true on the inside there. So it's moving on me. I'm sure it's going to crack. Probably more. There's a couple little branches, a little bit of a pit there. It doesn't feel like it's wet, or at least super wet, but I'm sure it's not super dry. One last step is going to be probably should have maybe done this earlier. I don't want that. I want the spindle gouge. Rather than leaving a sharp point up here on this rim, I'm just going to trim that back a little bit. Just so that it's not quite such a sharp edge. If somebody, those pesky little fingers that's got to stick their fingers in there, then they could get underneath the bark in that area and actually pull it back out. That being said, now we're going to have to do a tiny little bit of sanding in there, just around that rim, because that left me a rather sharp edge in there. So we'll carefully stick our fat little finger in there. Should sand off pretty quick and easy, especially if the speed was a whole lot slower it would. Without incinerating my fingers. Because you know somebody's going to do that routine of stick their fingers in there. So now we're nice and we have a nice edge. If we wanted to, could possibly get around that corner a little bit. I've seen people take the really big time to put a sandpaper on a dowel rod or something like that and try and go in there and sand that. It's like, no. You gotta stick your fingers in there. I mean, it's gonna have flowers. You're gonna have flowers or dried flowers or something in it. Why would you stick your finger in there? It's generally gonna be another wood turner that's gonna stick their finger in there and you're gonna go in, oh yeah, don't feel as thin as it could be, or something along those lines. So that's pretty much. I'm gonna go over and sand just this top little bit one last time to get some sort of a little bit of a plug or dowel to go in. In order to finish this bottom off, I'm going to put a dowel in the whole way to the bottom of that. I don't want much pressure up here. I would just break the bark off otherwise. I'm just going to hit that with a little bit of 320 and 400 for this top. Okay, should be that. Definitely going to stand a little bit harder down here in the bottom. There's a little bit of disturbed grain right there, but it doesn't necessarily reveal it. Let's see if I can go back to the harder pad once. The only thing wrong with that Makita drill right there is if you lay it on your, just like I did right there, I laid it on my arm to switch pads, and that's the trigger down below. So I put nice big marks up across my arm. So back up a couple grits. And a little bit more of this at the bottom. It's going to take a couple seconds to do it. It should be just it'll be just less that I have to do once it's flipped around. Just got rid of that stuff. So I can get in there fairly tight to the tenon on the bottom. Of course, the real question will be whether we leave the tenon on or take it off, and probably we'll take this one off. Oh, can't see that little spot until it's sanded super smooth. Not quite sure why it wants to show up where it's at, but so that is that. Really, if you were smarter than the average bear, you would have left the dust collector on and did that right in front of the dust collector so you weren't sucking up a bunch of very fine dust, which of course is not really healthy for you. Now, the next order of business definitely will be to get rid of the bigger chuck. And probably goes nice and small. Now the real question. The next major question is, what do I have sitting sitting around close and personal? I need less than, I need 4 inches down. I need something at least 5 inches long. And it'll work. Piece of poplar. It has cracks in that end. face shield down, otherwise it's right in front of the camera. This piece is going to be too, there we go, just right. Just snug it up. I'm going to put my tailstock back on. Give it a little tailstock support to get started. Get that out of the road. So we're sort of do the Richard Raffin routine of guess where center is at. Actually does work fairly well. I played around doing some different stuff and doing it that way. Now we can tighten that up. We'll just turn this end into a cylinder. I'll just square that end off, turn it to a cylinder, and I'll flip it around and go from the other end. That way I'll be grabbing something that's round. It'll be a little bit more cooperative. A little better grip. It'll give me probably a better use for this little block going down the road. Where would we go? Roughing gouges is few. Just about there. When you get back close to the chuck, it's easier to do that peeling, or the peeling cut. A little safer. I'll make this into as much of a cylinder right there as I can. And drop the tool rest down a bit. And square up this end. The super sharp corner. Yeah, good. I don't need to be round super far back. We're literally just going to take it out, flip it around, go right back into the chuck. Once we flatten out that bottom, so sitting on the jaws has always been a thing of really shouldn't do, but when it's straight, it should be okay. It will be okay. It's not a really great piece of poplar to start with. This is stuff that's been around for a couple years. I think this is a piece that came out of a log, though. So it's not as dry as what you would think it is, or at least that I thought it was. It's showing signs of wanting to crack sitting here in the shop. Because when I cut it, I did not reseal the ends. Well, I thought it would have been dry enough, but you know what it's like to assume something. Just about there. Not that it really overly matters. Once again, we're going to square up this end. This end actually, square is probably going to be best. You don't like to pick up the cut on a skew on the straightaway, give it a little chamfer. That's an easier place to pick up the cut on something that's not has a chamfer on it, or not straight. So that was another tip from Richard. Oh, no, that was, I think Monaco talked about that. This thing has cracks in it, which doesn't matter. We need a, this would actually be best if it was just straight overhead. So I'm going to use my calipers. This certainly doesn't need to, I don't want it to fit tight, so to speak. I want to come down. Gotta take a fair amount off. Should be able to do this with the skew as well. Heel and cut. So we drop over. And we need, I say, like 4 inches of this. And we need to go the whole way back there. Oh, that's because I was still zoomed in. Thank you. Still going to be out of frame. Go that way. Did I go the wrong way? I went the wrong way. Hold on. There we go. That would be a problem with the, kind of the problem of the horizontal theme. Be something very much different for me. That's certainly not a, peel and cut is not a smooth cut for the skew. In this case, it really doesn't make any difference. It just needs to fit inside of that, like such. The only thing is I left a little nub on the end of it, so now we'll be a little braver. I gotta get rid of that little bit of a nub, because I don't want it sitting on that center point. If anything, I'd rather that be a little bit concaved in there, but it sits out on this taper. Something like that. No real sharp edges. That's better. Now, can we scissors? So I can get just a little small piece of the foam in the bottom. Not really worried about it doing any damage in there. This will just give it a little more friction. I'll put a little piece of foam on there, stun a little piece of foam on there. I know very good and well I'll probably end up chasing this piece of foam on the inside of this thing. Make it halfway around. That should work. Now 2 little bits of foam all over the place. Okay, so what did I have in? I just had the round disc on the bottom of that. So we'll need to take the point out of the live center. It's mighty long. Give me a second. I will adjust that camera so that we get back in this view. You know, you're just missing out on me trying to get the two rings to line back up. So we'll go away a little bit more. Go a little bit further yet. Over there, see if it'll let me come in. Yeah, that'll work. Looks pretty good. So now the situation is we're going to, hopefully we had this measured right in here. Here's where you could definitely could create a funnel in a hurry in here. For sure. We're going to take that down to a little bit of nothing, and then we'll finish sanding as much as what we can, which should be a lot, most of it. See how well it spins. Not as true as one would think or would hope. It's never a real big surprise though when it don't. Can't put a ton of pressure on that either. That's just a little ring. Okay, obviously I didn't have it set quite as well as I thought I did the first time. That actually runs pretty true. So we can get rid of this bottom part. So all my cuts are going to go from tail to head. Putting less pressure on the piece. Want it to be a little bit concave. It doesn't like when you go. It really doesn't like when you go back across there. Really shouldn't do it. Probably really shouldn't do it with the bowl gouge. That's kind of spindle gouge territory. I think I'm going to leave more in there than that because I want to sand this out here. It's clean enough cut, but it's not. Can't say that that's necessarily the best cut that I've ever made. Primarily because it almost sounds like it's definitely not thick. let's put it that way. It's not thick. It's also got a hump in the middle, which we have to get rid of. Otherwise, I'll forget it and I'll be really irritated. So I should have gotten rid of the hump. Good. Yeah, that's a polite way of saying, yeah, I've been there, done that. I've made that little oops before. And anybody that says they never have done such a thing is generally telling stories, but it happens. Generally happens when you least expect it to happen, maybe. Should be able to spin it in reverse. I like spinning in reverse because of dust collection. So since we got 90% of this from the top, it only takes a couple seconds to do this bottom part. How are you this fine evening? Show up just about the time we're going to be about done. It's all good though. That's our sanding of that. Power sanding complete. A little bit of hand sanding on this outside edge on the bottom. And I don't, well, maybe it will. Let's go over to there. Yeah, you see a little bit of that. Not the cleanest cut that I've ever made in my life, for sure. I shouldn't say clean. It's not the smoothest cut. It's cut cleanly. Little 180 sandpaper will take care of it quickly and easily. So we'll give that a quick sand complete. Anything we could do, should have a little line or two in there just to show that we did something to the bottom other than go to a sander and sanded it off. So I'm too lazy to get out. I do have a point tool, but the long point of the skew does just wonders for that. Don't put two lines in there. And then we'll give it a sand with 400. Make sure that outside edge is nice and smooth, not sharp to the fingers. Now we can come in and get rid of the more of that little nub. Once again, I won't be in the category of trying to take that nub the whole way off. It's just kind of lesson learned once again. His waving hand said earlier, yeah, and when you think you're got everything figured out at that point, then you do something simple-minded like try and be a hero and take this down to nothing, and it breaks and it goes flying off, and the work that you just spent the last, in this case, almost 2 hours working on goes to shit in a big hurry. I will give it a groove back there. That groove back there is going to be where I will cut it off with the saw. And yes, you could absolutely take them small. I used to do that when I first started teaching some classes to show people that they could do it, but you know, if you don't have the good grip on the piece or whatever, the next thing you know, you got it flopping around. And in this case, I don't have a point in that live center, but if you had the point in there, that's inevitably what's going to go up against the piece of wood and leave a beautiful little spiral ring around something that you don't want and cause you a whole lot of aggravation. And when you're going to somebody that paid money to come and take a class with you, now you have to try and figure out how to fix something of theirs before they could go, you know, before they take it home. So another lesson learned, live and learn. So we'll just put a little disc sander on and we will take care of that very quickly. We'll call it a night. So there's a piece of poplar for more of the same kind of stuff. Those I generally keep in a drawer. I have a whole drawer full of that kind of stuff. Never have the one you need though. Almost inevitably guaranteed of that. Never have the right one at the right time. Especially when it comes to something like that one there where it needs to be long. Them I never had the right one. The right one would be the short ones. So let's go back to there. Oh, that's not really too good, huh? Back over about there. Yeah, that should be alright. Dust collection. You certainly could take a Drake or a Fordham or something like that and grind that off first. It generally doesn't take long enough to warrant that. Just want to make sure that it's, which I'm going to check here in a very short second. I got all the nub going. We're just going to take our straight edge back across. Looks to me like it's a little, wants to almost be sticking a little proud. I just keep rotating it around and going towards that center, trying to leave my line that I cut in there. I usually end up making that center a lot more concave than what it is, but it was also giving me that sound of you're about ready to have a really bad day, although it's not flexible, so wasn't going underneath. Yeah, that'll work. So now that I put everything, I'm not totally sure that this is actually ready to put the finish on it. Feels cool to the touch, not cold. Might as well have go for a little bit of chance of aggravation. More aggravation, put it that way. I didn't finish anything tonight, so got to do something to put a little finish on something. Probably could be less creative and actually just do the bowl that I did last week. Would have been a better idea. But who likes all good ideas? So widen back out. And eeny, miny, mo, we're gonna go and make it to go out there. Somewhere thereabouts should work. Need that. I won't do the very bottom at this point because it hasn't been signed or anything like that. We'll do the rest of it, the outside, all the way up around the outside. And of course our finish of choice will be the Parfix 3408. Actually, I went a little bit too far back. More better. Okay. Little piece of polyester felt in there works acts as my little reservoir. Here's where we're going to get to find out whether this stuff is dry enough. If it's not dry enough, it will set the super glue up like right now. So we'll see. Bradford pear is not really very thirsty, so to speak. The bark area, of course, will be. So it's not setting up on me, so that's a plus. That means the rest of this log that's still sitting here, which is, like I said, it's not very big. It's only about 6 inches in diameter. So that means we could turn it, sand it, finish it right from the start, which is always a nice thing to do. I don't work very much with dry wood, but it's kind of nice from time to time to be able to start and finish something all at one time. So we'll wipe it dry. First go around is just I'm still sort of smearing it around. There's plenty laying on the surface. My paper towel is you can see it's discolored. So if I go inside out, so I don't stick it fast in my glove, we'll go around it again. And we'll make sure, I'll probably get another paper towel. People with brawny I don't, I'd love to, well, I've seen how that kind of stuff, I worked in the paper industry. Somebody done set a slitter blade in the wrong place when they ran this batch of paper towels. And I'll show you why I say that. So there's paper towel. These are supposed to be the 4 square. So yeah, it's all right that direction. But when you go that direction, it's off a good solid half an inch or more in the one direction. It's kind of odd that they would. Poor quality control. Thank you. Be a good time to say if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. But help an old man out a little bit. Be nice someday to actually get enough subscribers to mean something, but not the end of the world for me. So that's it. We're pretty much dried off. That's the color it's going to be. Bradford pear is almost like working with cherry. As you can see, it already has a bit of a shine to it. Like I say, the bottom will get the same treatment on it once I sign it, date it, that good kind of stuff. Yeah, but they're not going to show up. Is the vertical live going to show up on the shorts? So we're going to give it a little activation. About 18 inches away or so. One or two little squirts, especially while it's spinning nice and slow like that. That's all there is to it. Come back another day, tomorrow, another day this week, and then we'll buff it. And probably once it sets up for a little while, explain that, please. 2 times in a row getting it all. So there we go. Gotta look over here to see, make sure I'm in the right place. Okay, I'll take your word for it. We'll try. We'll have it. We'll give it a go a couple times. See how it works. It's a little bit more difficult because my little screen for the vertical one is a little different. Actually, according to my OBS, says that I'm actually streaming in both vertical and horizontal, but I have no idea. I don't know what land the vertical or the horizontal was in, but at any rate, it's where we're at. It's like you see, I can touch it with my bare hands. I don't want to hang something like this that's not really non sort of less porous. I won't say non-porous, but it's less porous. Where if I was doing, which they're over there on the bench, I did a couple salt and pepper shakers for my daughter. They were actually finished with a 3460. Them you definitely do not touch right away with the on the live edge. You mean the top of the live edge? Nothing. The top of the live. I don't. No, I don't. I want it to look natural. For me, I'm gonna get my paper towel, put my glove back on. I'm gonna do this part of the live edge down in here and around, sort of around the corner. Okay. Well, I mean it's worth a try. No doubt about that. You don't have anything to lose. But back to your question of do I put any? I will not put anything directly on that top of that part. You could, but it's gonna make it. It would sort of make it shiny in some ways. And I definitely don't want to try and buff that up there or I'll probably rip half of it off. So I've got the outside edge sealed in, and that's this super glue really soaks in to something like that. I probably could have even done a little bit better job around there and went around there like 3 or 4 times, and it just keeps soaking it in. But if it has survived this far, I mean, chances are that bark's going to stay on there at least for a while. And the hard reality of it is the bark will almost never stay on forever. Something like this where somebody's not going to be handling it in the fashion that you would a yeah. Well, I didn't. Okay. No, it's worth a try. That's. I was gonna do a bowl tonight. Probably should do like the small bowls. I'll probably do that later on this week because I have a whole stack of little blocks over here that I drilled the other day. Um, I'll show you the the creativity, I guess you would call it. Some of these you've maybe I've already seen. These are most of this stuff, or some of this stuff is little offcuts off of the end of what would have maybe been a bowl. Um, Put that somewhere, don't knock it down. So I've been playing around doing these little itty bitties. This one is cherry. It's ready to be buffed. Actually, I think I did buff some of it. So, there's what I've been playing around with probably quite a few times this week is messing around with these little 4-inch jobbers. So they're really pretty quick and easy. The shark jaws work wonders. It doesn't have to be the shark jaws for any means. I just take them over to the drill press and I drill a hole. This case is 2 1/8, and a little block that's relatively square. If you wanted to, you could turn a square little bowl. These I actually take on the disc sander after I'm done and sort of make them round or a little radius. Um, Another thing that Richard Raffin was doing, I need to go back and watch his again to see, because he made it really simple how he was getting a radius on them. But I also had a little small log of walnut that was down here, so it's only 4 inches, a little over 4 inches in diameter. So I did the same thing with these. I'm talking in safety features. I simply took a block of 2x4. Wow, I wish I got even close to that. I don't get that. I'm at 50 if I'm doing good for the lives. Um, where was that? Oh, these little round blocks. This is half a log. These were also stood up on. Wow. So these were cut on the bandsaw. Um, I think for both length and width. But I stand them up on the bandsaw to cut straight across them like that. I don't try and cut in this fashion here. When I also cut them on their when they're around, I have a sled that has a stop back here. If it rocks too much, even at that, then I can put a wedge. But I do the sit them on my little V block, and I step back and look across them to see whether I'm relatively straight, and then hang on to everything real nice and tight, and gives you a way to drill them safely. Put it that way. So I got a bunch of them ready to go. That was a little bit of time I spent the other day with it. Other than that, that is going to be a wrap for me. I'm already past time, but I like to finish what I start. I like that. Yeah, I can believe that. Yes. People in the shorts are used to watching a 1 minute video, not a 1 hour video, or in my case, this is almost 2.5 hours. So yeah, I could understand that. Very good and well. So, okay, gentlemen, y'all have yourselves a wonderful week, and we will be back next week. Yes, definitely. Huh. Yeah. Well, thank you all for showing up and hanging out. Appreciate it. And we will be back next Sunday night. We'll probably try this vertical. Yeah, vertical. Yeah, we'll probably do the vertical stream again. See if I can figure out. I still would like to figure out how to do them in both places, but whichever. No, I'm good. I'll keep playing around with it this week. You're doing yours with the phone, so it's pretty simple. I'm using OBS for this. So these are I don't know. I don't want to sound rude or anything. These are like real cameras rather than a phone camera. I mean, yours looks good for a phone, but yeah. So I mean, this is running through the software. Yeah. Like I say, thanks for hanging out and okay. 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 Yeah. Well, OBS has a actually there's even a newer one yet from what I see to do the verticals. What do you record videos on? Because you have both. Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, we'll chat more next week. See if the dumb old man. Well, yeah. See what else I can figure out throughout the week, and we'll go there. Okay. Yeah. I hate editing videos. That's why they're almost all live. I was actually supposed to. I was going to edit videos because we were going camping for 3 or 4 days, and we made it less than one day because our brand new camper had the furnace didn't work and the hot water heater did not work. So, and unfortunately decided it would go rather cold in the beginning of the week this week for us here. And it was a very short camping trip. So I didn't get my videos edited. So we'll have to work on that. Yeah. Well, I don't mind the editing part. It's sitting there and doing the voiceovers, and that usually irritates me. But it usually takes me 2 or 3 tries on something like that. But whichever. So, all right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming by. That's my philosophy too. See you guys.